Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. In today's episode, we're going to do some good old-fashioned mining, but we're going to do it with a new tool to add to our arsenal. And the first thing I'm going to do is return to our little lava lake here, which we've almost completely tapped out by converting it all into obsidian. And that is what I'm here for. We need 8 obsidian so that we can craft an ender chest. In fact, I'm probably just going to convert the rest of this into obsidian. We're going to grab another 8 obsidian so we can craft 2 ender chests. Along with the obsidian, we will need 2 ender pearls, which you remember we can trade from clerics now, so no worries if you can't find some endermen, just trade with a cleric a few times. We will also need a blaze rod, which we can break down into 2 blaze powder, combine the 2 in our crafting interface to create Eyes of Ender. Lots of stuff we can do with those, but the thing we're going to do with them today is turn them into ender chests so that I can explain how these are useful at this stage in the game. We're going to place one of those down in our house here. And one thing I should maybe mention before we end up using these extensively is that it's worth making sure you have a silk touch pickaxe, because ender chests can only be picked up using a silk touch pickaxe. If you try and break it with anything else, it will break down into obsidian, at which point you will need another ender pearl and another piece of blaze powder to make another Eye of Ender and craft it back into an ender chest. But anyway, I was planning on leaving this in the house, wasn't I? So the ender chest is a really useful, effectively, expansion to the player inventory. It's functionally the same as a chest. You can put items in there and you can always come back and collect them whenever you want to, but the trick with ender chests is that you can collect them from any ender chest in the world. Let's say I want to come down here and harvest this entire field of crops. That's a lot of stuff I don't really want clogging up my inventory right now, so I'm going to throw that in the ender chest for the minute, including this one poisonous potato, which yes, you will sometimes get if you harvest potatoes. While we're here, we'll collect the pumpkins and the melons as well, and you know what, we'll probably get the contents of this chest taken care of as well. All of that can go in the ender chest. It's a fruit salad inside of a chest, and then using the silk touch pickaxe, we're going to pick that up, and it's not like the contents are going to spill out everywhere, but I can come back to this ender chest here in the house and collect all of the vegetables from there. And right now, you might be wondering, wait, can I automate any aspect of this with a hopper? If I put items in this ender chest here, will they appear in this chest over here? No, they won't. And the reason for that is simple. Minecraft is a game that's designed to be played multiplayer as well as single player. And on a multiplayer server, every player has a unique space inside of the ender chest. So if you open up an ender chest, you're going to see the contents of your ender chest and never anybody else's, which is why it's useful to think of them effectively like a second inventory. They are effectively your own private pocket dimension where you can store some extra stuff. And so, as you can imagine, if you put a hopper underneath that, it's not going to know whose inventory it's pulling stuff out of, so it leaves the inventory alone. But where the ender chest really comes in useful at this stage in the game is for reducing inventory clutter. And to demonstrate that, we're going to go mining. And as always, I feel like going back to our starter cave in order to do that, because this really does stretch for miles underneath the surface. If we head on down here, we are likely to head in a direction that we have never been before. If we go down here through the back of this cave, there are untapped veins of ore. I see some diamonds over there in the wall. There's gold up here in the ceiling. And there's, of course, iron ore all over the place as well. Down here in the lowest depths of the world, we're going to encounter all kinds of materials. But on all my previous mining trips, I have eventually run into a dilemma, because my inventory is filling up with resources, and I don't want to leave any of it behind. Now, obviously, at this point, there are some things you can do. You can prioritize, right? You can say, I don't really need things like the spider eyes or the string right now. We've got bones that we can get from a skeleton spawner anytime. Those start to make way for the precious materials, and a lot of the precious materials have blocks that you can convert them into to save space in your inventory. So the lapis, the iron, the gold, the copper, the redstone, even the diamonds eventually can be turned into solid blocks. That will save us a little bit of inventory space. We can convert some of this coal into torches. There are definitely ways we can use the space in here more efficiently. But on a long enough caving trip, all of that is going to fill up, even with the precious stuff, and then suddenly you're left with the choice of, do I throw away the redstone, the copper, the diamonds? And that is where the ender chest solves all your problems, because you can simply stash all of those precious resources in here and keep on mining. Of course, the ender chest is not a bottomless well. It certainly has a limit on its inventory space similar to the player's inventory, but in the meantime, it proves a very useful method of storing all of that material. And the other important thing the ender chest does is keep that stuff safe. Oh, sharpness 4 book and a couple of diamonds in a minecart chest, absolutely. You see, these are the only 2 ender chests we have crafted so far in this world, but I picked both of them up. Does that mean the contents are preserved? Yes, of course they are. For me, it all started to make sense when I learned learned that the contents of an ender chest were not stored as block data, they're stored as player data. And that's why each individual player has their own contents to their own ender chest. I have no idea where we are right now, by the way. I'm pretty sure this mineshaft is in the opposite direction to the one we explored down here previously, but it's got a few goodies in these minecart chests that I want to keep hold of, and leaving it all inside my ender chest means that even if I end up dying down here, all of the stuff that we've got on this mining trip will be preserved. So if you're an accident-prone player, if you tend to get into sticky situations when you're exploring places like this, then taking an ender chest with you is probably a worthwhile precaution. Oh, we have a zombie spawner exposed here in the middle of this mineshaft. How cool. Wonder what we got in the chest for this one. Ah, another golden apple. Great stuff. And I think at this point we can start to designate areas inside of here for common loot, I guess. So we're getting a lot of rails, we're getting the occasional name tag. If we wanted to, we could start turning these bones into bone blocks and keep them in there as well, but I think we've probably got enough space in our inventory for that. Feather Falling 3 book in here as well. Very nice. I'm actually making good use of the torches in these. Whoa. There's a lot of lava around here, but there's diamonds at the bottom of it, which means I'm going for them. Slightly terrified of dropping on down here, but looks like we've made it a little safer. Safe enough to grab these diamonds at least, and there's a couple more hiding in the wall for us. We got another one! An enchanted golden apple! Yes! Okay, well that's probably worth returning home with. Of course, we can stick it in the ender chest to make sure that it returns home safe and we don't end up falling in lava with it on the way back, because it turns out around here there's quite a lot of lava to fall into. But that right there, folks, that is the true value of the ender chest. We get compact, extra storage, all of your supplies are kept perfectly safe, and once I'm able to craft one in a world, I rarely leave home without one. I do kind of sound like a door-to-door salesman at this point, but this kind of proves my point. We went on a mining trip and I was able to bring back a whole bunch of other junk that otherwise I might have had to leave behind, but we can drop all of the mob drops in here. I was even able to bring some of the rails that we can keep here in our utility chest to look at minecarts later. The glowberries from the mineshaft, we got to bring them. We've got some bread left over, even a potato that I got from a zombie. But when it comes to the precious materials, they're all stored right here in the ender chest, and we can grab all of those, clear it out for our next caving trip, but maybe leave some stuff in here. On multiplayer servers, the ender chest is sort of considered like an ATM. If you have a shopping district that you go to, it's usually a good idea to keep hold of some diamonds in there. That way, if your server is using diamonds as currency, you're always going to have some cash on you. For a while, before I got used to bringing both of them with me in my inventory, I actually used to stash some of my tools and stuff inside of the ender chest so I could keep more of my inventory space open. We might start doing that with stuff like the spyglass, which is only circumstantially useful. You might also want to keep a spare stack of food in your ender chest in case you go hungry, and backup equipment is often a really good idea. Let's say we go out somewhere further into the world and we set up a base somewhere. We could even consider that savannah village we've been working with a separate base to our starter house area and the fishing shack and everything. And I do now have a nether tunnel dug out to that portal, so I might as well actually go over there if I'm going to use it as an example. Let's say I set up a trading outpost out here, I throw down an ender chest, I set my spawn somewhere, and then disaster strikes while I'm out mining, and I die somewhere. Getting geared up quickly so that I can recover some of that lost stuff before it ends up despawning is going to be a bit of a hassle. Even with all of these villagers around trading me diamond equipment, it'd probably be better for me to go back to my house at spawn. But that's going to take a bit of time, I might not have the supplies I need even back at spawn, and it can feel like kind of a slog getting back to where you were. So having some backup gear stored in the ender chest in the eventuality that you die somewhere and need to make a quick recovery is often a really good idea. The best part is all of the materials you need to make an ender chest, the ender pearls, the blaze rods, even the obsidian, are all renewable resources, meaning you can generate an infinite amount of them in your Minecraft world. So you can make as many ender chests as you feel necessary and station them all over the world if it means just making your inventory space that little bit more convenient. I think, at minimum, you want to keep one in your storage room and keep one in your inventory at all times, because let's face it, this is actually 27 extra inventory slots in a block that you have to place down. So it taking up one extra inventory slot whenever you take it with you is hardly an inconvenience, unless you're in a place that you really don't want to put down blocks. Once you've crafted more ender chests, you can even store some backup ender chests in your ender chest if you want to make sure that you can just grab one at short notice before you head out your front door. Does that mean the storage space inside them multiplies? No, of course not, because you have to take the ender chest out and place it down in the world again in order for it to function. But later in the game, we might have something something we can use to multiply the inventory space inside of here, because once we've visited the end dimension, there are these things called shulker boxes, which are effectively chests you can pick up and take the contents with you. You can store those inside the ender chest, which means every slot of the ender chest can also contain a box with 27 slots of inventory, at which point the ender chest becomes almost exponentially more powerful. But we're not going to worry about that yet, because that's still a little way off. For now, we're just going to keep hold of this, and we're going to go back and do a little more mining. But first, we have a bunch of levels and a handful of diamonds, so I'm thinking we should come up here to the enchantment table and spend those levels just in case something happens to them. I was talking about backup equipment back there, but we don't really have any of that, so how about we change that today? For example, how about a backup Fortune 3 pickaxe? Yeah, don't mind if I do, actually. Another axe with efficiency and unbreaking sounds like a good idea. The shovel's only going to have efficiency 3, so let's check the sword. What does knockback 2 give us? Smite. Okay. Smite is a damage enchantment which specifically does more damage to undead mobs, like skeletons and zombies and that kind of thing. Won't do any extra damage to creepers or endermen. And personally, that enchantment isn't quite powerful enough for me to consider it a worthwhile backup to keep. So let's try again. This time we get Unbreaking 3 on that. Let's see the shovel. Unbreaking 3 as well. Fortune 3 on a shovel. I mean, it's worth it if all you want is flint from gravel, but no, I'm probably not going to keep that one. I would prefer to have Silk Touch on a shovel. And I get Fortune 3 again. Okay, it's going to be one of those days. There we go. Finally, Silk Touch is actually showing up in the enchantment table. And of course, all I get is Silk Touch. Well, that's fine. I have books for the other stuff. Speaking of which, actually, I should probably check some of these books. And we're running a little low on those since I've been taking some of them over to the librarians in the village. But right now, we're getting enchantments for tridents, which we don't even have yet. And I don't know about the sword enchantments. Knockback 2... Just knockback 2? Yeah, didn't think so. Honestly, at this point, I might try enchanting another shovel to see if we just get efficiency and unbreaking on that, because that would combine really well with the Silk Touch shovel. Just efficiency? Come on. And Bane of Arthropods 4 is now coming up in the table. You know what? Yep, I'm cursed. It's pretty much a curse. But hey, I can't be too mad. It's a curse that gave me a backup Fortune 3 pickaxe in a single enchant. I think I can be happy with that. So I'm actually going to keep the diamonds here at home, since this is a single-player world and I don't need to carry them around with me, but some backup equipment here in the ender chest sounds like a good idea. I'm also going to take the enchanted golden apple out and put it in the chest here with the other one that I found, but I think keeping some chicken and the spyglass in here sounds like the way to go. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab this gold helmet and we're going to go back to the Nether. Because when we're here in the early game, nothing clogs up your inventory like mining materials like quartz. You get multiple of these using fortune, so you end up with a ton of nether quartz, but you can't convert all of the quartz into blocks because quartz doesn't break back down into quartz once it's in block form. You've turned it into a building block and that's the way it stays permanently. But individual fragments of nether quartz like this are what you need to craft a bunch of redstone components like observers, comparators, and daylight detectors. But this turns out to be another really useful time to have an ender chest because you can stash all of the quartz that you gathered inside the ender chest, and that will leave your inventory free for all of the other stuff that you might need whilst traversing the Nether. Ender chests can also be incredibly useful when raiding unfamiliar structures, because some of the loot chests in here might contain objects that you're not sure whether or not they're significant and whether you should leave them behind, or things that you personally don't find that useful but the community will get on your case about. And then we can at least make sure these chests are empty and clear them out so we don't get tricked by them next time. Seriously, there's so much horse armor in this Nether fortress. They don't even have horses here. What are they doing with all of it? Anyway, my ender chest is now a horse armor deposit box, but you get the picture. But while I'm demonstrating this here in the Nether, there's one other thing you should know about ender chests, or really chests in general, and that is that piglins see them as their property. If you open a regular chest nearby a piglin, they'll think that you are robbing them and they'll come to attack you. The same goes for ender chests and barrels. I think even chest minecarts, which don't have an opening and closing animation, count as something that piglins will get aggressive towards if they see you tampering with it. I think they draw the line at redstone components. If you look at a dispenser near a piglin, they're not going to get mad at you, but the rest of the time you should be a little bit more careful. Even though I'm wearing gold armor around these piglins, if I put my ender chest down, sort through it, they're going to get mad at me. Bringing an ender chest to the Nether is actually a really smart move. Just be careful where you use it. I think a magma cube just went through my Nether portal. Yep, it did. It did. We have a magma cube in the overworld now. Now, what should I do with this guy? He seems a little confused by the whole state of affairs. You know what tempting as it is to keep some of these as a pet? They're probably just going to attack me, so... I'm also not sure how magma cubes do in the rain. A lot of nether mobs get damaged by water. But anyway, we can unpack our ender chest and all of its contents and look at the amount of inventory space we've saved because there's so much quartz, all of which I am very determined to keep as quartz. A ton of horse armor, which, yes, probably means I should do an episode about horse resources, and these gold tools and armor, which I might actually put in the blast furnace. You see, any gold or iron items that you don't want can actually be smelted down into gold or iron nuggets, which is kind of a rip-off when you consider that 8 gold ingots probably went into that chest plate. But hey, we got it for free. Same goes for the gold sword, and we can probably use these golden nuggets for something else a little further down the line. But with my ender chest cleared out, I'll show you one more neat trick that has been possible in Bedrock Edition for a while, but briefly came to Java. If you want to quickly swap between pieces of armor in your inventory, you can simply hold them in your hand and right-click now. So we can stash the gold helmet back in the ender chest for any emergencies where we need to don one quickly in the Nether to escape from piglin aggro. But I like that change a lot. It's actually really useful to be able to swap between armor quickly. And while we're not done using the ender chest, I'm probably done talking about it. I think we're going to leave that episode there for now. It's a short and sweet one, but the ender chest is such a useful block, and I'm sure you folks will find plenty of cool uses for them in your own worlds. So thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.